Welcome back to FTBL Culture. It's your boy CultureCams. I am joined today by none other than, of course, my boy Lyes. How are you, man?
It's always a pleasure. And today, man, when I heard about this topic, brother, it's going to be an all-timer episode. Let me just tell you that now.
Listen, so we've had so many people talking about, bring back the all-time 11s for certain managers. So, of course, if you know, we've done the Jose Mourinho one. If you don't know, go and check that episode out. But today, for me, we're doing the team. I think this is the hardest one of all time. I think this manager has managed the best players of all time as a collection. And it's, of course, Carlo Ancelotti's all-time 11. Now, we see the game differently, me and Lyes, so we have different ways of having attachment to a player. So it's going to be very interesting to get into this one. There's so much talk on Ancelotti's name at the moment, of course, because of the Classico, went wrong and there's a lot of stuff going on. But we can't deny that he is a legend in this game. He is an all-time man. I know you have your opinion on Ancelotti, but if you're talking about winners in this game, he is one of them.
Of course. I mean, he is the most prestigious manager in Champions League history.
Yeah.
And when you look at the crop of talent that he's had the honor of managing, like we're going to kind of go through some of these names, I agree with you. I don't think there's a single manager with a better repertoire of players that they've managed than Carlo Ancelotti. I mean, I think there's like 6 or 7 Ballon d'Or winners just on this list alone.
I fully agree, man. And the thing is, a lot of them, they won Ballon d'Or under him.
Yeah.
The seasons that he had with them. So,
Top.
Damn, okay, cool. Let's get into this one, man. Let's get into this one. We're going to obviously start from the top to the bottom. We have agreed on a formation, which will be on the screen. You describe it. You said it better.
So Ancelotti is known for 2 formations, in my opinion. You got the diamond and you got the what he calls the Christmas tree formation. So it's like a 4-3 midfielders, 2 attacking midfielders / forwards, and then 1 number 9. So a 4-3-2-1, if you will.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to go for the 4-3-2-1.
Yeah, cool. We'll go with that, man. What we try and do is respect the manager's kind of favorite formation. So we're going to try and play it along those. And as I said, it's going to be a lot of debate here because I see the game different, you see the game different. So it's exciting to see. Both of us don't know whose team is who, by the way.
Yeah.
We don't know. So let's start. Our stat man created a list of players for us. So starting in goal, the options are Dida, Petr Cech, Casillas, Neuer, Courtois, and Buffon. I literally just named 5 of the greatest keepers of all time. Bro, Casillas, Neuer, Cech, Courtois, Buffon, Dida. These guys can all be in a discussion for either the greatest of their generation or either the greatest of all time. I'll let you start with that. I'll let you start with the goalkeeper.
This one really is tough. I think the one that most people would go for, and maybe even you yourself, would be Dida because he's part of those great Milan teams.
That's not the one I went for.
I agree with you. I'm actually of the belief that as great as that Milan team was in terms of the individual talent, I always thought that Dida was the weakest point in that team.
I agree.
I always thought in the Brazil teams he was the weakest point, and I always thought for the Milan teams he was the one that you could kind of get at. So I didn't include him myself. You look at other players who have unbelievable seasons like Petr Cech in 09-10. Casillas, that 13-14 season, even though for me he was kind of on the decline already. Neuer, in a season where Bayern didn't do amazing, still was very good.
Generational keeper.
And Buffon, of course, he had him near the very beginning at Parma. But the goalkeeper I actually went for, and I don't think you probably went for the same one, is Thibaut Courtois for me.
You went for Courtois?
Because although he probably isn't in terms of legendary status as good as those guys were, I look at the best season under Ancelotti out of all of those guys. I think last year's campaign for Real Madrid, they relied on 3 players, in my opinion, like more than most. Benzema, Vinicius, and Courtois. And in the Champions League final, that performance he gave, for me, the greatest Champions League final goalkeeper performance I've ever seen. And I think he carried that Real Madrid defense. He in goal was impenetrable. Yeah. He was unbelievable. And for that reason, I actually go for Courtois over those other 4.
And it's something that he actually thought that he should be a Ballon d'Or winner.
Okay, don't that one, bro.
He actually thought he should win the Ballon d'Or in that season, but I mean, this one is difficult for me because looking at the names, Courtois is like the recent one, so you don't want to be too nostalgic and stuff. But I just think the way Buffon was a global sensation when he came up, and he was only, I believe he might have only been in his teens or early 20s. It was kind of like how everyone was talking about Donnarumma, where it was like, wow. But Buffon, then obviously we know he went on to be the most expensive keeper in the world, and for me, the greatest keeper of all time, probably. People I may not remember, because now we look at 45-year-old Buffon. That guy was quick.
It's kind of crazy, by the way, he's still playing.
It's scary, isn't it? That guy was quick. Like, you know what, yeah? The reason why I'm saying him, yeah, right, is because when I was young, you don't really look at goalkeepers. But Buffon was the one where he made you take notice of his saves, bro. And there used to be debates about Buffon, Casillas. I have never, ever thought Casillas better.
Same, I agree.
Buffon for me, yeah. Buffon for me has always been that one.
Clear.
And it's hard because there's Czech, Casillas, Neuer, Courtois. And you know what? I wasn't thinking about Courtois. So that was a really good one. And I will give you that, of course, for seasons, Courtois is better. But you know how I am.
Yeah,
you know me. You know me by now.
He's too affectionate, man.
You know me by now, bro. Buffon. He's just a machine, man. He was just a revelation. And that's why I'm siding with him. And of course, I said to you off camera, like, looking at this team, ability matters for me, bro.
Yeah, of course.
You know, ability matters for me, and I do think Buffon is a better keeper in his prime than Courtois.
That's what word you said, in his prime. I agree 100%. True. We're talking about kid Buffon here. And this is why, for me, my list kind of goes more so towards how were they under Ancelotti.
Yes.
And that's why, for me, Courtois under Ancelotti last year, it felt like a wall, bro. It felt like nothing could get by him. That performance against Liverpool, Salah was on a mission to drag Liverpool to the Champions League, and Courtois every single time came up with an answer.
Yeah.
So I got to give it to him. And against City as well, unbelievable saves.
That final is different still, but that's Ancelotti's greatest ever goalkeeper.
I think so, bro. You won a Champions League with him. I don't think that's ridiculous to say.
Listen, production. We might need to split teams at this point, because I can tell if we can't decide on goalkeeper
on the first one, we can't decide.
I think we might need split teams, wherever we combine.
Let us know in the comments as well.
Of course.
Too. Who do you think?
So, all right, I'm going Buffon, you're going Courtois. But for this one, if we had to do combined, I'll go Courtois, because you made a good argument there, and he did have a better season, and I watched that season more. So I'll agree with that. We'll move on to a right back. And here's the position where I know you were stumbling.
This is the one, yeah?
This is the
Hey, this guy knows me too well, bro. This is how you know we work together too much.
I knew you were stumbling on this one, but basically our right backs that we have are Thuram, Costa Curta, Cafu, Ivanovic, Carvajal, and Philip Lahm. I know who I'm going for this one, 100%.
Who are you going for?
I know, I'm going for Cafu.
Okay.
No doubt am I not going for Cafu. What? Cafu, he was a leader. He was, yes, Maldini was the captain, but he was somebody that was basically a captain of that team too. He was an original attacking fullback.
Yeah.
Trust me. The Brazilians know about fullbacks. So Cafu, I think, brilliant going forward. Later years, he started becoming much better defensively. And in a way, like, even though he was old, it didn't feel like he was out of his prime when he was with Ancelotti. And I just think for what he can do with the ball, as I said, his influence on the team, I'm going to go with Cafu. And I just think his overall ability compared to everyone else on this list,
it's clear,
I think he's the most talented one out of these guys. So I'm going to go Cafu. Right back saying the most exciting positions in the world, but he made it exciting.
So that's why I'm going Cafu. Brazil at one point had him on one side and Roberto Carlos on the other.
It was the fakest wing duo you would ever see in your life, bro. I said wing. That's how mad it is.
They are wingers,
fullback duo.
So, I mean, Cafu, you can make the argument he's the greatest of all time in his position. He's that great. The reason I was stumbling a bit on this is because when I look at Cafu at Milan, he didn't play in that 03 team that won the Champions League. He lost in 05, and in 07, he didn't really play. He was basically near the end of his career. But he was still unbelievable. Even though Milan didn't win the Champions League when he was there, like in the 11, he's unbelievable. The other names, of course, Thuram,
Parma.
I grew up on stories about Lilian Thuram from my dad, right? Like the most consistent, like reliable defender you can really get. Defensively, the guys, I mean, he plays left back, center back, and right back. And when they needed him to score goals in France's semifinal against Croatia, he popped up with those two. Obviously, that's before my time. So is Costa Curta, who I know, again, he's another one who plays left back, center back, right back. The one I want to give, the one I want to give an honorable shout out to is Carvajal, because people forget as well that Ancelotti is the one
These
who...
new gen fans.
No, but let me
see
tell you
these
this.
new gen fans.
Hold on, we're talking about what is it? 5-6 times
Carvajal,
Champions League winner.
hi.
Let me tell you about Carvajal. People forget
I
that
like him though. I like him.
Ancelotti is the one who brought him back from Leverkusen. So when we talk about he birthed a lot of these guys, he low-key birthed Carvajal a bit.
Yeah.
Carvajal was doing his thing. He was from the academy from Real Madrid and then went to Leverkusen. Ancelotti is the one who bought him back, brought him to that 13-14 team, and then almost a decade later had him as a staple in that Champions League team last year. But when we go based on pure ability, I was willing to edge it Courtois before. I think this one has to be Cafu, right? The difference between him and Carvajal in terms of ability is too much to really ignore. And I think Cafu, his peak, like I said, you can make the argument he's the greatest in his position.
Yeah, yeah. So I think Cafu's a lock-in. I mean, what a player, man. Cafu is our right back. Centre backs. Now, when I saw this centre back, I had to. You know when you have to sit forward. You have to
I
sit
sat
forward.
back.
I had
I
to
was
be like,
like,
okay,
damn.
yeah. I had to rub the knees and be like, all right, well, this is business. This is business time here because this is difficult. And as I mentioned with the goalkeepers, I am talking about in my top 5 centre backs of all time. I'm looking at 3 of them.
That's insane.
In my the ones that I've seen, I'm looking at 3 of them. The first one, Cannavaro.
Yeah, had him early at Parma.
Yapstam, absolute animal. Nesta. Maldini, of course, he played centre back, he played left back.
Yeah.
John Terry. Go back to the Chelsea video, you know what time it is. Sergio Ramos. Pepe, animal, partner of Ramos. And Thiago Silva, which I think people would have slept on.
Yeah. I'll tell you this right now. I'm not including Maldini just because for me, Maldini,
Agreed.
it's crazy, right? Because you could arguably say he's a top 3 center back of all time and a top 3 left back of all time. You could genuinely make that argument. And just for the sake of including guys that I want to include in this list, I'm going to put him at left back.
Yeah,
so
I'm going to put him in the left back discussion.
We'll put him there. So
yeah, I agree that.
I look at the guy who we partnered at times for Milan, Alessandro Nesta. And I don't know if this is a hot take for anyone. If people say, oh, you're thinking back nostalgia. I think Alessandro Nesta is the greatest center back of all time, bro. He has everything you would need from a center back. On the ball, classy, man. Rolls Royce. Defensively, sometimes doesn't have to make a tackle. And when he does, bro, crunching. Physically imposing. Quick off his feet. Even when he kind of lost his pace towards the end, you see him in these games against Barca. Messi comes near him. Hey, Nesta still got that bite in his tackle,
100.
bro. In the air, imposing. I just think Nesta, bro. You think of a prototypical center back. I want you think of all the attributes you need to be an elite level center back. Nesta had all of them, bro. Nesta for me is the most complete center back I've ever seen and the best one I've ever seen.
His reading of the game, everything about Nesta was just something.
It's classy, bro.
It was mythical. And listen, with this list, it's so many good centre halves, but I need an Italian in there. For my centre halves, you need to be Italian.
Yeah.
Give me Italian centre halves. I feel comfortable. I feel safe. So I'm gonna agree and put Nesta in here.
Right.
But now for me,
I'm looking at 2 names for this.
I'm looking at 3 names.
So who are your 3?
My 3 are Yapstam,
Okay.
who I think was formidable with Nesta as well.
Yeah, true.
When he went there after, I believe it was after Manchester
After
United,
Lazio.
right? After Lazio,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
After Lazio, he went there and they formed a very, very good partnership, which got them to Champions League finals. John Terry. I got to look at John Terry as well. I actually don't think he got the best John Terry.
I'd agree.
But I think John Terry was still fantastic under Ancelotti. Sergio Ramos. Those are the 3 that I've got to go for. So
I left out Stam from my one because I just think Stam. At United, amazing. Lazio, amazing. He was great at Milan too, but I think we saw a better Stams before. I went for Ramos.
Yeah, I'm going to go for Sergio Ramos as well. And the reason why I'm going to go Sergio Ramos is because I feel like under Ancelotti, okay, yes, he had done his thing under Jose Mourinho. We know about the duo when they were like madmen with Pepe. But I think for something about under Ancelotti, he became a little bit more polished. He became more of the leader in that team. He just became the figure of Real Madrid. He became that guy for Madrid. And then you look at the clutch goal, of course, not only in the final.
Bayern.
Let's not forget the 2 goals against Bayern Munich, the clutchness. I actually think on this list, our pure defending, he's the worst.
I don't think it's ridiculous to say.
I actually think our pure defending, he's the worst on this list.
He's the most
but
rash.
What he gave to that Ancelotti team, the leadership, the ability, he will put his head on the line. I'm sure most of these guys would as well.
Stam, we'll put it in.
But we saw it time and time again. And I'm sorry, the fact that he scored those goals, I know people are saying it's defender talk, but we're talking about moments, we're talking about greatness. And of course, what he's gone on to achieve. Just the fact that he kind of started that. He brought the Decima home, bro. well, Gareth Bale kind of did. But
There's no Gareth Bale without Sergio Ramos.
There we go.
Yeah.
Like, Bale basically put the icing on the cake, but someone had to step up in the 90th minute and deliver.
They were losing to Atletico.
Atletico, their greatest rivals.
Ramos is Capitano Eternal, bro. Like it's crazy, right? To have a captain like Casillas there for 10 years and Ramos basically in the next 10 years. Didn't diminish everything he'd done, but he
Raul
basically
was captain.
Yeah. So Raul and then Casillas took the mantle from there, and then it was Ramos. But Ramos for me is the greatest captain in Real Madrid history, and I think he is. I think he is, bro. You might say
Raul.
I think Ramos.
That's a tough one. That's a Raul was
Ramos
like
captained them to what 4 Champions League.
I know.
Moments and forget about it, Champions League in 15-16, obviously not under Ancelotti, but I think those 3 moments against Bayern and then in the final. He symbolized that Real Madrid team, bro. That Real Madrid team for me was never say die. That's what I accustomed them to. And Ramos was the embodiment of that, bro. You could never count them out. He'd always pop up with a huge moment. Always have his say in it. So for me, I go Ramos.
Yeah, I go.
And I think you look at who complements the other one. I think that'd be amazing.
That's an elite partnership. Yeah. But okay, cool. So we're gonna lock in Nesta and Sergio Ramos. John Terry, listen, mate, you were in the Chelsea one, man. We're giving you a prop, man. We're giving you a prop. Cool. Left back.
Easiest one.
For me, that's Maldini.
It's Maldini.
Yeah, and Marcelo was great. Ashley Cole was great. Alaba was great as well. But I don't think we need to debate this. Maldini, this guy has played through like nearly, I think it was 4 decades or something like that.
Bro,
just to put into perspective for people, Maldini played beside Baresi.
Yeah. He retired at 41. He captained Milan in the Champions League final at 39 years old.
He's the oldest goal scorer in the Champions League final as well. I mean, that was a nice moment.
I think he went to 4 or 5 Champions League finals. I mean, he played in the World Cup.
He's lost a lot of Champions League finals as well because he's been to many. And I'm sure he lost the European Cup before it was
he did. He lost the World Cup final against Brazil. Yeah.
Funny enough, he's never won with Italy.
I know,
which is crazy, isn't it? And it's you don't let the.
I think Maldini though he has 5 Champions Leagues or 4 Champions Leagues. He has them back with Hullet and Van Basten.
Bro,
those guys,
he was winning it with Baresi.
His longevity is that crazy.
He was winning it with Baresi.
I think he played with Ancelotti.
Bro. Absolutely ridiculous.
And
for me,
under Ancelotti,
this is the greatest defender of all time.
I agree.
In totality, the fact that you lived and handled the 80s, and bro, very slept on the ball.
Of course.
Very set. You know what them days he was actually attacking as well. Yeah. Amazing slide tackler. Even though there's this fake quote that goes on around him about
if I make a slide tackle,
I made a mistake. He never said that. It's a fake quote. I'm sure it is. Such a leader of that team, and he's still in the backroom staff now.
Yeah, he's actually Milan. A huge reason for why Milan has returned to where they are now.
He is Mr. Milan. Yeah. I mean, it is as simple as that.
Mr. Ancelotti. I think he represents him. He would be the captain of this team.
Oh, 100%. I was going to ask that at the end anyway. But
he's a captain.
Maldini left back. We don't need to say too much. Let's move into holding midfield. We got Deschamps just for the old heads, just in case there's any 40 plus watching this. Of course, we're not going to put him in. Let's keep it 100. We didn't see him at all. We got Andrea Pirlo, Mikel, Alonso, and Casemiro. I think even though we've got great names, you know what I think about Casemiro, you know what I think about Alonso, but I'm going to go Pirlo. Andrea Pirlo was the one. He's the heartbeat of the Milan teams. I think he's probably the best deep line playmaker of all time.
I think I agree.
Busquets has his, but when I'm talking about playmaker, I remember he was the first defensive midfielder I've ever seen that needed to be marked. I was
Park Ji-sung,
I remember defensive midfielders used to just be like, you break games up and whatever. He was the first one where you had to pick him up. You had to design a player, take a player out of a game just to do a sole job on this man. Classy, one of the best passers of all time, one of the best free kick takers.
His footballing IQ
is levels with Xavi. It's levels with all these type of guys.
Let me tell you this, right? You bring up Xavi, you might bring up Iniesta. I have the maybe unpopular belief that I know a lot of people say, the top 4 midfielders of their generation, of the modern game, is Zidane, Modric, Iniesta, and Xavi. I believe Pirlo sits at that table. I think he probably sits 5th at that table, but I believe he is so great and so influential to all the teams he played for, whether it's the World Cup winning team of Italy, whether it's the Champions League winning finalists in Juventus, whether it's the Champions League winners in Milan. He is the heartbeat of every single team he's ever played for. He's the brains, he's the engine. He is the most integral player to any Ancelotti team that he coaches. I rate Pirlo so incredibly highly, and I think I always thought he never got his credit and his flowers until he almost grew the beard and
He
joined
didn't.
Juventus.
That's exactly what I wanted to
But
touch
at
on.
Milan, bro, the guy was the engine of the team, bro.
he
Everything
was.
goes through him. He pulls the strings from midfield.
He did, and the thing is, like as you mentioned, he only did start getting his love, and it's when he got his love. It's when he beat England.
Yeah,
it's
with
when
the
he beat
Panenka,
England.
yeah.
After that, he grew the beard. I think it was the next season.
Yeah.
And then
He started drinking wine, and everyone's like, "Oh, he's so classy."
Yeah. Oh my god.
He's been
he's
doing it for
so
10 years.
He's been doing it, bro. For anybody that thinks that we're just saying that, like, because I've had this discussion before, and people are like, no, don't try it. We remember Pirlo before. Please go watch the 2006 World Cup.
He's the best.
He was probably the best player at the World Cup. Cannavaro walks away with the flowers, the Ballon d'Or,
and Zidane
the solidness.
as well.
Zidane, of course, we know what he did. But if you're talking about from game 1 to game whatever it is, how many games are in the World Cup, I think Pirlo was the best player in the 2006 World Cup.
Couldn't agree more.
What an absolute player. So we've given him his flowers, of course, and I think that's a shoe-in.
Yeah.
Shout out Casemiro, Alonso, Mikel, and the Champs, but there's levels to this game, man. Ability-wise and what he done, I think he's a shoe-in. Now let's move on to the midfielder that will be next to him between right centre mid and left centre mid. I'll let you do the right centre.
I was going to say, for this kind of list, I feel like you can like put either one at right or left, because like if I do left, I think the ones that played on the left are better than the right. So I'll give you some of the names. Antonio Conte for the old heads, Gennaro Gattuso, the Pitbull, Michael Ballack, he had him for a season at Chelsea, Luka Modric, we know what that's all about, Edgar Davids, Clarence Seedorf, Frank Lampard, Angel Di Maria, and Toni Kroos.
Wow.
That's like 10 of the greatest midfielders in the last 20 years, bro.
Wow.
I have my two.
My two, I definitely got Luka Modric.
Has to be.
I've got to have Luka Modric because I think Luka Modric now, we're talking about one of the greatest midfielders ever, in my opinion. And if you're talking about the modern game now, let's say 2010s onward, I think he's the best midfielder of his generation.
I agree.
Like from 2010 to this point, ridiculous. This stretch that he's had as the best midfielder in the world has been long.
And don't forget too, Modric before Ancelotti came had that season under Mourinho where he had first come. He was called the worst signing of the season. He was being considered one of the worst La Liga transfers ever.
Yeah, but for some reason he decided to smash it in against Arsenal.
Yeah, I know.
Anyway, but Luka Modric, I mean, what he's going on to do right now, what he did last season, we know what he. I know it wasn't Ancelotti with a 3-peat, but what he done in that period, what he's done
14, his assist 14, for the Ramos header. There
we go. I think Luka Modric, listen, people talk about Xavi, people talk about Iniesta, and it probably gets boring doing these kind of comparisons. It's going to soon, for the new gen, be the Scholes, Lampard, Gerrard. That is what it's become, yeah, right? Xavi, Iniesta, Modric. But if you could put the attributes of Iniesta and the attributes of Xavi, smash them together, you make Luka Modric.
Yeah.
Dribbling ability. He can dribble. Okay, is it to the levels of Iniesta?
No.
Probably not. But I'm talking about a fusion.
Yeah.
He can dribble like Iniesta. He can control like Xavi. He can defend better than both of them put together. The engine that he has, better than them.
Footballing IQ.
The footballing IQ's levels.
Yeah.
You know, with a midfielder, you're meant to be able to do everything. Can you dribble? Can you score? Can you defend? He can do everything, and I just think there's no doubt that I'm putting him. And listen, by the time this video could age even better, because honestly, look what he just did at Anfield. They can go on and win the Champions League again. Who actually knows? So Luka Modric is a shoe-in for me.
The other one is the tough one for me because I agree Modric gets in, but this is now where you're picking between, and here's the names I think you're picking between. I think you're looking at Lampard. Because that season under Ancelotti, I think 22 goals in the Prem.
Special.
16 assists. He was unbelievable that year. You have Angel Di Maria, Champions League Man of the Match finalist.
Yes.
And I think Ancelotti almost redefined him that year. Like he was playing on the wing under Mourinho, and he made him into this box-to-box, all-action midfielder. I think he deserves a special shout-out. And the third one for me is Clarence Seedorf.
Yeah.
Because I think Seedorf is always, like I always look at midfield threes. You have the 6 who usually does the defensive work. I know Pirlo is an unorthodox 6. You have the 10 who's the creator-in-chief, and then you always have the balancer, the third-man midfielder. And I think he did that role possibly better than anyone I've ever seen in terms of like the balancing midfielder. But people also forget that in 06-07 when Milan won the Champions League.
He was instrumental.
Ancelotti brought in Ambrosini to play that third-man midfielder and actually put Seedorf in that attacking role next to Kaká. And people, of course, talk about Kaká's Champions League. We'll go on to talk about that later in the video. But Seedorf that year was insane. He had a goal at the San Siro against United. Scored the winner against Bayern in the quarterfinals. Was unbelievable in the final. Seedorf, the brains on that guy. He's one of the most intelligent footballers I've ever seen. Incredible athlete. Technically, incredible. He had everything you want as a midfielder. Long shots, dribbling, passing. I can't speak highly enough about Seedorf.
I definitely agree. In terms of his actual ability, bro, his technical ability was... Listen, I always talk about black centre midfielders and stuff. I don't want to put it about race, but he is the best black centre midfielder I've ever seen when it comes to pure footballing ability.
Let me say this. I think if any play, whenever someone's like, oh, what player would translate into the modern game the best? I always think of him, bro, because of the athleticism you need as a midfielder today, mixed with, again, how great technically he was. I think he'd be even more appreciated in today's game.
He's built like an ox.
Hey, have you seen the picture of like him at 40 at Botafogo with like his abs, bro?
Yeah. So wait, is straight off your pick?
He might not have hit the heights of that Lampard season or that Di Maria final, but I think Seedorf over that 6-7 year period under Ancelotti was a staple, and I'm going with him.
You know who I'm going for.
Big Frank.
Not even Frank.
And hell,
I'm sorry, I can't have Ancelotti greatest 11 without Zidane in there.
He didn't either.
If me and you walk away from this podcast without Zidane in the greatest 11, we deserve to get 200 quote tweets on our head. We deserve it. Listen, you take away Messi, who's just out of this world. This is the GOAT for me. I love the guy. He's my personal GOAT. And he's just so good. For me, a top 5 talent to ever play football.
Of course, I agree.
I always say R9. I always say Messi, Maradona, Zidane, and Ronaldinho. So good, so naturally gifted, no training needed. They just came out of the womb that good. And Zidane, I can't have it in there. I looked at Ancelotti's quotes about the guy. He's the first guy that made me tactically flexible. Did that work? Probably not. Maybe it helps you somewhere else. But he also says he's the best player he's ever managed. And I think I get your Seedorf sentiments 100%. It makes perfect sense. But I have to put in the goal. I have to put in the goal.
Like I said, we gave our credentials, or like basically how we judge our players for this list. You're a lot more on sentiment and what
I'm a lot more on how I felt watching the player and how
when I judge players in general, that's how I feel. But when I'm doing this list and Ancelotti 11, I have to think of how they played under Ancelotti. And that Zidane under Ancelotti, I wouldn't say it's his worst period in his career, but I think there's been better. And for me, Seedorf under Ancelotti.
All right, cool. So we'll put a slash on that.
Fairs.
We'll put a slash now. We'll go with Zidane / Seedorf in this section. Let's move on to like the attacking midfield areas. I think there's one place. I think these are 2 shoe-ins. I don't even think we need to go into it too long. The options are Del Piero, Kaká, Malouda, Isco, Cristiano, Bale, Robben, and Vinny.
There's 2 names that stick out.
I don't think as much as we respect Bale, we respect Robben, we respect Vinny, what he's doing right now. Del Piero, what a player. One day maybe we need to do a nostalgic episode on players like this. But I think it's easy. Cristiano and Kaká. Cristiano Ronaldo, we speak lyrical.
Let me just give you his 2 stats under his 2 years under Ancelotti: 13-14, 51 goals, 17 assists, and 17 goals in the Champions League. Still the record to this day. And then next season, he said, I got you with more. 61 and 23.
You just named over 100 goals in 2 seasons.
Come on.
I don't even. We everyone knows Ronaldo's career by now. Talking about Ronaldo is pretty much pointless. Nothing new a man can say about Ronaldo. But Kaká 06-07. Actually, if you go back, I know they had that bottle job in 03-04. But I think that was when, against Deportivo, that was when Kaká, I really started to take notice of the guy. I was like, right, who is this Kaká guy? The guy can go from 0 to 100, like in a millisecond. For that tall, technically gifted. But of course, a lot of it was about his athleticism.
He's the OG for me, PNP mixed with technical ability.
Yes.
He's the one, we see De Bruyne now, Kaká was the OG of that.
Kaká, and that season he had an 06-07. Honestly, other than ones where the player played for my club, like Ronaldo, that's the only one we've got. That's my favourite Ballon d'Or season. Oh, I love Messi 2011, so I'm not going to lie. But that is like, forget Messi, forget Ronaldo. That season of Kaká in that 06-07 when he won the Ballon d'Or under Ancelotti, he was just different. I actually think if you're talking about top 5 unique talents, I think Kaká is one of them, bro. I think he's so different to a normal 10. Though maybe more of them are coming through nowadays, but the way he could pick the ball up and cover ground, driving the ball close to his feet, then he can kick it forward. Bro. He was like Bale in number 10.
Yeah. That performance against United at Old Trafford is all-timer, bro. I made an archive video and it was unbelievable. And I think people forget too that Milan team, that was the last year for them. Like that team was declining. It was on the way out. Maldini's legs were aging. It was just the last era of that Milan team. And he dragged them, bro. He was the best player on the planet by a mile that year. I always say the last human before Ronaldo and Messi for 10 years. 2 aliens, they took it over. So
and we cannot forget, bro, he didn't do anything wrong in the 04-05. Gerrard always talked about how hard it was to monk him. We know he had Gerrard's eating his dust for that goal. So what a player.
06-07 final too. to assist to Inzaghi for the second.
Exactly. So we're going to go with the forwards, Kaká and Cristiano Ronaldo. Both played at Real Madrid together as well.
All time.
And now let's get to the striker position. We're talking Crespo, Inzaghi, Shevchenko, Didier Drogba, Benzema, Zlatan, Lewandowski. Pick your poison.
We talked about Mourinho's strikers last time. These ones might be even better. Bro.
It is better. It is better.
You got 2 Ballon d'Or winners.
It is better.
2 top 5 strikers of their generation.
It's ridiculous. Shevchenko, different type of striker. He could shoot right foot, left foot. He was a fox in the box if he needed to. He could score from range. He could score good goals as well. He was a proper striker. We talk about his Ballon d'Or season. Some people will say it should have been to Henry. But the guy was a problem. He was, when the Serie A was really frying, he was one of the best. He was the best striker in that league.
Yeah. When
the Serie A was a popular league, you know. So shout out Crespo, great what he did. I always talk about that chip finish, and the celebration.
Unbelievable.
Crespo was a boy. I liked Crespo. He was a guy, and he went and done decent at Chelsea as well. But I can't have him in there. Shevchenko was great. Didier Drogba, 09-010. We know what he did there. 09-010. Listen, the guy scored 29 league goals, people, and went away for the AFCON. Now, we talk about Haaland. We talk about Mo Salah. If Didier Drogba did not go off to the AFCON in 09-010
or got injured, he had an injury.
Or get injured, we know that guy would have broken the Premier League
29
record
goals in 32
earlier.
games, bro.
29 goals in 32 games. It's the same thing as the Luis Suarez season.
Yeah.
If he didn't have that ban in the beginning. So it's crazy how circumstances matter.
And that season too, you look at the big games. Like again, we talk about Drogba, big game killer, winner at Old Trafford against Offside, but Makeda, we got ours back too. So winner there, winner at the Emirates, 2 goals in fact at the Emirates.
Yes.
He went to Liverpool on the penultimate day, and Gerrard passed it to him on a plate, scored the winner there too. So big games, he was that guy. In an FA Cup final against already relegated Portsmouth, that free kick.
Yep.
That season for me, everything came together for Drogba, and it's actually funny because the season before that, Scolari was actually trying to sell him. He wasn't vibing with him. He was Anelka is my guy up front.
Drogba got that guy out here.
He did.
As soon as he's got sold, he sacked. He scored as well.
But even that season, he had the semi-final against Barca. Everyone talked about the robbery, but Drogba had a howler that game. He missed so many chances. But Ancelotti got a hold of him, said, "You're my guy. You're going to lead the line for me with Anelka actually on the wing for you." And he just, 29 goals in 32 games.
It was different. And even talking about big goals, even though it was Wigan in the last game, he scored a hat-trick.
I remember too, a funny story.
Fighting with Lamp.
And he got mad that Lampard took the penalties. I scored 3 anyways.
Yeah, after he scored, then he was all going to Lamp's like, no, okay. Lampard was looking at him.
The celebration at the end, hard, bro. Hard.
Shout out them. Do you know why they did that?
Why was it?
Malouda and Drogba actually set up a band together. They created a band. They liked making music. Yeah, so that was that was what they do.
That was so hard, bro.
In their spare time, they used to play music together. So that's why they did it. But then there's Benzema.
I think you forgot one, by the way. Inzaghi. I wanted to say about Inzaghi, right? He's not in any of our lists.
Goal hanger.
This guy is I call him a genius, but he's a genius in his own special way. In that I look at some of the goals that this guy scored. They're unlike anything. No other striker on the planet can score them, in my opinion. I look at the goal that he scored against Liverpool, where Pirlo strikes it and it hits off Inzaghi and goes in. And for anyone else, we'd say it's an accident.
Yeah.
For him, I'm convinced he meant it.
It's the way he runs off. He runs off like I mean everything.
This guy could score. This guy could score on. He'd be on the line of the goal and just tap it in, and he'd go and score like he just scored a bicycle kick.
He's a funny guy.
Psycho.
He's a funny guy. But for me though, as Lua was crazy, you know the goals that he scored, the numbers.
I think,
43 goals.
Yeah.
Zlatan scored 50, I believe it was.
No, it wasn't that season. Zlatan, he had 35 and 17. This is the first season at PSG. Yeah.
Different, but I got to go for the new gen.
Big body Benz. Remember, I used to be dusty.
I got to go for KB9, man. Listen, Ballon d'Or this season. He's the current Ballon d'Or winner. That season that he had last year. Now, if you're talking about, if Ancelotti has to thank any man in his career for what they have done for him in a season,
it is
Benzema. Benzema saved bacons last year. Bacon, back-to-back hat-tricks against PSG.
Oh my God, bro.
And Chelsea.
I remember at the time, it didn't make sense to me what I was watching. Like every time I ruled out PSG or Real Madrid, I said they're going to lose to PSG, they beat them. They're going to lose to Chelsea, they beat them. They're going to lose to City, they'll beat them. Liverpool, same. And Benzema every single time said, screw your predictions, I'm dragging this team across the line by myself.
It was a man that was possessed. It's as simple as that. And I actually think this is another video idea. I think that might be the greatest Champions League season of all time. Individual.
Okay.
Bro, how can you do what he was doing? I've seen Ronaldo score 17 goals, of course, but of the 5 favourites of the competition, Real Madrid would have been in there. Benzema crashed all 4 of them.
He's like that one picture of like the Grim Reaper going to his door.
Yes, that's what he was. That's what he was. This is, for me, a different level. And let's not even forget the finish at the Etihad. Little cross. How did you score that? And then you just said, do you know what? Dink the penalty, Panenka. We're gonna get you in. We're gonna get you at the Bernabeu.
I always say
it was different, man.
That's one of the best individual seasons I've ever seen, and it's probably the best that's not named Messi or Ronaldo.
Yeah, and the thing is that he matches the eye test as well. That's the thing about it. If you're talking about the ability of all these guys, wow, the ability is unbelievable. Zlatan, I mean, wow. But Benzema's right up there. Ability, eye test, what he did, stats.
The guy's
There's nothing that he could. And accolade. He won the Ballon d'Or. Champions League is different. For me, that's who I'm going with. I'm going to go with Benzema. So, guys, let's go through our list. Let's go through the 11. It's so many players. So we went for Courtois, which is a madness for me. We went Cafu.
Yep.
We went Nesta and Ramos.
Mm-hmm.
Went Maldini, Pirlo, Luka Modric, Zidane / Seedorf, Kaká, Ronaldo, and Benzema. Guys, try and name a better 11 than that.
So the thing is, they probably could. Like, they could give me a different team, and I'd be like, you know what? I hear it. Fair enough. Terry and Stem, fair enough. Yeah, okay.
Carlo's A team and B team will be crazy.
That's a World 11 versus Classic 11.
Listen, like, share, subscribe, turn the notifications on. Make sure you comment your 11. Make sure you comment. I know there's going to be so many honorable mentions. That's what you guys are going to do. Honorable mention, honorable. You forgot this guy. You forgot. We know. It's Carlo Ancelotti, people. This is not easy. We could have done this video for another hour. That was another episode of FTBL Culture. It's CultureCams, Lyes. We are out.